Hi guys, my name's Camila,
I'm Lorelai.
and this is our podcast. Yay! I know you guys are super hyped to listen to our lovely story we have today. Just to laugh out loud, this is a great story to laugh with your friends.
Yeah.
Not really though. Not really. We're gonna get into the case of the girl in the picture. Now, this is a crime podcast we are doing. So, just before we get started, there are some warnings. There's going to be some rape, some things that maybe you guys might not want to hear or are uncomfortable with hearing. There's going to be kidnapping, child abuse. There's just a ton of things like that. So, if you're uncomfortable, please do not watch this.
Just leave a random comment. We don't really care.
Just leave a random comment. We won't take it personally. If you feel uncomfortable watching it, it's all right. Just say that it was good or something, or a thumbs up. I don't even know. Whatever you guys feel. So, with that said, let's get into it. All right. So, I'm going to go ahead and get into the background of the main guy who is behind it all. Franklin Delano Floyd.
Stupid name, by the way.
Dumb name. We don't like him. He's our enemy, obviously, for many reasons. And you'll probably be on our side by the very end of this podcast. So, let's get into a little bit of his background. Now, on June 17th, 1943, Floyd was born in Barnesville, Georgia.
Boo.
What a place. What a man. So, just a year after Floyd was born, his father dies, and his father passes away. Now,
Womp womp.
I know.
Sorry.
That's okay. Now, I do understand that Floyd's childhood has not been easy, and I do understand how he was made, but what he did was absolutely just crazy. So,
inexcusable.
Yeah. So, after his father died, his mom couldn't take care of him anymore, so she sent him to the children's home. And on January 21st, 1946, Floyd was placed in a Georgia Baptist children's home.
No comment on that.
No comment. So, after some interviews were done on Floyd, he, quote, said, "It was the most torturous place," end quote. There was a lady at the school that would scold his hands and stuff him in closets while they beat his feet, making them swell to the point where he couldn't walk.
Yeah, that's pretty gross. This one's really painful.
That is very brutal for a Baptist, church school.
Mm-hmm.
It was back in the day, so obviously there was a lot of abuse of power around there. Like, it was pretty crazy. So he also said that boys would rape him and beat him and, quote, made him their slave, end quote.
No comment on that again.
Yeah. So he would get picked on quite a lot just because he was the smallest kid around in the school.
Mm-hmm.
So, which is kind of sad, but I mean, Floyd, I don't know. I don't know. So, on June 11th, 1959, Franklin Floyd runs away from the children's home. I mean, which is understandably so.
Yeah.
Runs away. It's a hard life out there. We get it. And then he joins the army, but soon got kicked out for being too young.
What? I don't understand that. Why wouldn't you just take anyone that you can get?
I don't know. Honestly, don't know. He honestly volunteered to join the army, but he did forge his papers, which is a big thing. So I understand why they kicked him out.
Yeah.
Just maybe don't forge your papers and join the army.
Yeah.
But after that, his first crime was officially on February 19th, 1960. All right, now after that little background check, here we get into the actual crime. Okay. Now let me just tell you guys, this crime does get kind of confusing at times. There's a lot of things that happen, and it does get a little crazy.
We jump around a lot too.
Yes. So, just try to, focus as much as you can, I guess.
Keep up as much as you can.
Yeah. So we do jump around a lot, but we try to make it as clear and as kind of with the dates and stuff like that. So just letting you guys know. So anyway, On April 1990, 2 to 3 guys are driving in Oklahoma City and they pull over because they see debris. They see a blonde young woman injured. Okay, and she is automatically rushed to the hospital. Obviously, they gotta call for help. And when she's in the hospital, her husband Clarence shows up. He said that her name was Tanya Hughes and that they have a son named Michael. The first impressions from like the doctors and the nurses, they said that Clarence was really weird and that he was way older than they were expecting him to be. He was just very standoffish, very interesting guy.
Already red flag.
Yeah. So once she's in the hospital, the doctors examine her, and they actually find old bruises and old injuries on her that showed maybe struggles of abuse or anything like that. But ultimately she does pass. She passes away.
R.I.P.
I know. So the job she was currently working at, her friends, wanted to call her family to tell them the news of what had happened. So her friends from work want to contact her family to tell them the news, and they call a woman and tell her that her daughter died. But the woman responds with, quote, "My daughter died 20 years ago. She was only 18 months old," end quote.
That's such a crazy call to get. Like, I'd hate to get that call.
I know, just, 20 years,
yeah, that's weird.
Just out of nowhere, 20 years ahead, you just get a random call that your daughter's dead, but she's already dead.
It's so weird.
That's a little odd. So her work friends realized that the blonde woman that passed and buried was not Tanya Hughes.
Oh.
They don't even know who their work friend that they buried was. That's not her real name.
That's freaky.
So they ultimately just don't know who she is and don't know what to do. That's crazy. Imagine burying someone you thought you knew, putting her name on the tombstone. It's not her real name.
That probably places me into a spiral.
Me too. I'd be freaking out. So, now her friends are starting to get a little suspicious. Obviously, things are going on. They realize things. So, some of them remember that while working, they noticed that when Tanya would change, she had bruises on the whole back side of her. She had obviously signs of injuries and struggles. And sorry about that.
Cut that part.
Yeah. Okay. 1, 2, 3. Tanya tried to cover it up with stories, but ultimately they knew that Tanya was very scared of Clarence.
She's being injured at home.
Yeah. So obviously some signs, are being shown. So, now we get into Tanya's actual injuries.
Okay.
So, she arrived after...
Sorry.
That's okay. All right, 1, 2, 3. Now to get into Tanya's actual injuries. So she arrived after midnight with a medium severe closed head injury. She had visible scratch marks across her neck, so obvious signs of struggle. Many thought she was in pretty good condition for being in a car crash, because she was brought in because they thought that she got ran over by a car or a car hit her. But she was fine. She had close-headed injuries, literally no sign of anything. She was in great condition.
Which I don't understand why they would rule a car crash out then. Why wouldn't they try and figure out how she died if it clearly wasn't a car accident?
I know. I guess there wasn't enough evidence in the situation, but nurses and doctors ruled that it was pretty suspicious. The nurses especially knew right away that this wasn't a car crash.
There's just intuition.
It was their intuition. The nurses already knew. So after the whole accident with Tanya and her ultimate passing, Michael got sent into a foster home because they deemed Clarence unsafe for Michael.
For obvious reasons, I think.
Yeah, it was pretty obvious. And so a couple took Michael, and Clarence was trying to get him back. So, the most he got was visiting rights, But Michael did not like it at all. The couple stated that Michael would hide under objects when he had to go visit and say, quote, that mean man, end quote.
I'm telling you, you gotta trust kids' instincts on this.
I know.
If
that kid does not like Clarence, there's something going on. Mm-hmm. So the couple thought it was something obviously happened when Michael was in the care of Clarence. DHS called the couple and told them that they wanted to take a DNA test to prove that Clarence wasn't the father or related to Michael, because they were curious at this point.
Yeah.
See if they had any relation, because Clarence was looking pretty old at this age. Like, he did not look like he just had a kid.
Yeah. No.
We'll insert a photo so you guys can see, but he did not look like he just had a kid. Yeah. So they wanted to test it, and it turns out that he was not the father or related to Michael in any way.
That doesn't surprise me.
I know. So they terminated his parental rights, and for obvious reasons. I mean, he's just a random man trying to get this kid back. I mean, you're not even related to him. But that same week, a pickup truck would drive slowly outside the couple's home. And can we take a guess on who that was?
I'm gonna say Clarence.
Yeah, how'd you know? Clarence. It was Clarence.
Just a wild guess right there.
Yeah. So, this jumps ahead to September 12th, 1994. So we already know that Clarence is kind of obsessed on getting his kid back. So the couple are on high alert. And on that September, cops got a call that there was a man tied to a tree in the woods, handcuffed and duct taped. Just a random... Imagine being a police officer and getting that call.
That's so weird.
Yeah. Just in the woods, handcuffed, duct taped, probably scared out of his mind.
Yeah.
But, so after they got more details, the suspect walked into a school and told the principal that he was there to get his son. Who's that suspect, Lorelai?
Clarence.
Yeah. Yeah, it was Clarence. So Clarence actually pulled a gun partially out of his pocket to threaten the principal to take him to his son.
Literally so weird. That's just ask for your son. Why do you need to threaten the principal?
In a school of all places. Yeah. So the principal ended up taking him to his son. I mean, obviously. Yeah. So they ended up taking the principal's car, his truck, and tying him up in the woods.
I don't understand why they got the principal involved.
So Clarence kidnapped his son, Michael, along with the principal at gunpoint.
No words.
Michael is very young at this point too. We'll probably insert a clip, but he's still a very young kid, so he has no idea what's going on.
Yeah.
And it's just very, very heartbreaking. But once they found the principal, Clarence and Michael were never seen again. They disappeared. Disappeared off the grid. So the police were very concerned at this point and put missing posters all throughout Oklahoma. So 4 years before all this happened, in 1990, Clarence tried to collect his wife's life insurance policy.
Okay.
After she died. So before he kidnapped his son, right after Tanya died, he tried to collect her money.
A little suspicious to me.
A little suspicious. Maybe remorse a little bit more or something like that, but fine. 4 years after Tanya's death, Clarence tried to collect his wife's insurance policy. But, get this, the social security number he gave was for a man named Franklin Floyd. So Clarence isn't who he seems.
Yeah.
It's got another identity, huh? So, Clarence Hughes' real name was Franklin Delano Floyd. And police soonly knew that they were dealing with something way bigger than it was. Floyd was known to change his names to Trenton Davis, Warren Marshall, and Clarence Hughes. We'll put that on the screen so you guys can see, but this man uses 4 different names for 4 different states. Yeah, we'll get into that later, but
foreshadowing.
Foreshadowing. So police pulled up his criminal records and saw that in 1962 he abducted a girl, robbed a bank in 1963, and then was released into a halfway house in 1972. He was already in jail for quite a while. And then in 1973 attacked a woman.
Quite a big record. Like,
there's a lot more that I didn't include in here, but his criminal record's gone for quite a long time. So but after he attacked a woman, he failed to show up to a court and was a fugitive for almost 2 decades.
I don't understand how they didn't catch him. Like,
I don't know
seriously.
Either. Like, how can you be a fugitive for 2 decades and not have gotten caught?
I don't get it.
I don't get it either. Like, he just changed his name. He didn't change his face.
Yeah.
But he was known to run away quite a lot. So, as we'll learn more in the story. But, so police obviously were very concerned for Michael at this point. They were very scared for him, and they wanted to make sure he was safe. And at this point, they knew they needed to catch Floyd. So they posted ads, they posted stories, and they just tried to do anything to get people to recognize his face, his name, and his aliases. And one person stood out from everyone else, and that was a friend from high school that saw the police reports about Tanya and recognized her as Sharon Marshall. So, flashback to Georgia 1984 in high school. Sharon Marshall was a very important person in people's lives. She was known to be very smart and had a very big future.
Yeah.
Yes. So she always was very friendly with everyone. She was known to be just a very outgoing, lovely person, which is very sad because she had a lot of things going for her.
Didn't she have a full ride scholarship?
She did. College? She had a full ride scholarship to Georgia Tech because she was just that smart.
Poor girl.
I know.
So bad for her.
So, a lot of her friends pointed out some kind of weird things that Sharon would do with her father figure. Sharon would always cook dinner and wasn't allowed to talk on the phone. Like, if you had to talk on the phone with Sharon, she had to know advanced or when her father wasn't around. It was just kind of a weird situation. Like, and when someone did call the house, she got very nervous when they did. So it's just kind of a little weird. But one day, Sharon called one of her closest friends, Jenny Fisher, telling her that she was pregnant and that she needed to put it up for adoption and that her dad wasn't letting her go to college anymore.
That's so upsetting to me.
I know. I mean, imagine getting a full ride scholarship
and having to throw it away just because you're pregnant
and your dad won't let you go to college, which is overall kind of weird. Like, just because you're pregnant doesn't mean you should stop living out your dreams, you know?
A little weird.
So, the friend also, Jenny Fisher, is the person who stood up and told the police all this. So, she also disclosed that in 1984, Clarence Hughes was Warren Marshall, Sharon Marshall's father, not husband.
Why would you want to pretend that your daughter is your wife?
I don't even know.
Like, that's so gross.
I know. And police told Jenny that on the 15th of June 1989, Clarence Hughes married his own daughter, Tanya, and changed their names.
That's so nasty. Like, so nasty.
I know. So, Clarence wasn't the only one who had changed his name. He also changed Tanya's name quite a bit. Tanya's names were Tanya D. Hughes, Tanya Dawn Tadlock, Linda Williams, and Sharon Marshall.
Again, 4 names for 4 different states.
All right, so after that disturbing phone call that Jenny Fisher got from her friend Sharon, her father disappeared. So 5 years, 5 years ahead, in 1989, Tampa, Florida, Sharon worked at Mont's Views. Now, you guys can look this up if you want to. We're not going to really go over her job because it's not really school appropriate.
Not at all.
So, we kind of hint at it in here, but we won't be, like, disclosing what job she really did. So, you guys can look it up if you want to, but no, we're not really going to say anything. Yeah. So, now, Sharon would sell herself at this job for money because her, quote, dad told her to, end quote. And everyone at the job was kind of already knowing that Clarence was not the man who everyone thinks he is. You know, he looks a little suspicious. He's already acting suspicious. And, all right, so Sharon and Clarence used to live in a mobile home. They used to live in Golden Lantern, a mobile home in Florida. And their neighbor, Michelle Couples, used to help babysit Michael, Tanya's son. So she would just go over there, kind of babysit, kind of help them out a little bit. Just kind of be there when Sharon and Clarence were busy doing whatever they were doing. And in the Mons Venus, Sharon had a friend named Cheryl. Now, Sharon and Cheryl, it does get a little confusing, so don't hate us too much if we mess up on that. So Cheryl was a friend of Sharon at the club, and Cheryl used to hang out with Sharon and her dad.
So weird, by the way, that who hangs out with their friend's dad?
I know.
Like, I could never do that.
Me neither. Like, who... Keep in mind, these girls are in their teenage years, you know? Yeah. They're, like... I mean... They're not...
our age.
Yeah, think about it. They're, like, our age, you know? Like, 16, 17. They're so young. Like, why would they be hanging around, you know? Their parental...
Like a 50-year-old. Like,
yeah, it's so... a little awkward. But, So, Cheryl... She was working where she was working because she wanted to get famous. She wanted to be famous. She wanted to be a star. She just wanted to be known. So the kind man we know that Floyd is offered to help her become famous by recording videos and taking pictures.
Again, also weird. Who would do that?
Like,
why would you let a 50-year-old man do that to you?
I don't know. It was back in the day, so, you know, not many people were like, I don't even know.
Yeah.
But still odd in general. Like, what is happening? So, Floyd ended up helping Cheryl in her weird way, whatever. But one day, Sharon disappeared from her job and didn't say anything. And just disappeared. Sharon.
Okay.
Sharon disappeared, and her father along, too. Just disappeared.
No words.
No words. So, fast forward back to 1994. Police are able to prove that Sharon wasn't Floyd's biological daughter, which is good, but they also realized that Sharon was probably kidnapped as a young child. And guess how long Floyd kept her?
I don't know. How many years?
15 years.
I wonder if she even knew that she was, like, kidnapped.
Yeah.
Did she like, live her life thinking that Floyd was her actual dad, or what?
I don't know. I actually don't know. I never disclosed that in whatever I looked up. I think it may have hinted that she had no idea. I honestly don't know about that, though. I don't think she did, because I think she was kidnapped around when she was like 4 or 5 years old. So, I mean, you know nothing when you're 5 and 4 years old.
Yeah, I don't remember anything.
Yeah. Police were, like I said, alerts were going off, very heavily concerned for Michael. They were concerned at this point that Michael wasn't breathing anymore. They were concerned that he was dead.
Yeah.
For very clear reasons. They know that Floyd is very dangerous. So, in the end, police had no idea who Sharon was, where she came from, or who her parents were. and don't know her true name or her true identity. They know nothing.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I can't imagine everyone knowing Sharon in their lives, knowing that it wasn't Sharon. I don't know who she is.
That'd freak me out.
That freaked me out too. Like, who was this girl? Who was her father? Who are these people?
Yeah.
Like, so FBI agent Joe Fitzpatrick came up with a plan to get Floyd. To get this man behind bars for good. He figured that he was probably using the same aliases, and he alerted the main states that Floyd went to. Floyd did go to Phoenix, Florida, Georgia, and Kentucky. So they all knew that Floyd would probably try to renew his license in one of the states that he's already been in. So he ended up renewing his license. They were right. He ended up renewing his license under Warren Marshall in Louisville, Kentucky.
Kind of stupid of him to do that.
To use the same name. Yeah. I don't think he knew that police already knew his aliases and his names. But at the same time, I feel like it's time to make a new identity, you know. But whatever. Thank goodness they caught him. Like,
thank God he was stupid enough to do that.
Yeah, thank goodness he just slipped up that one time and they were able to catch him. So, Joe flew to Kentucky and had an agent in Louisville dress up as a UPS uniform. Hold them all dressed up, pretending to be a delivery man. They delivered the driver's license, and they grabbed him and took him in custody.
Good.
Thank About God. Time. Yeah. After 2 decades of running around. Thank goodness. So, the unfortunate part was, after police took Floyd into custody, they couldn't find Michael at all. Red flags.
Red flags popping up all over the place.
Yeah. They asked neighbors, but neighbors didn't know anything about Floyd. They didn't know his family, nothing. Floyd was very to himself. They didn't know anything. So, as the case was being set up for trial, police wanted to charge Floyd with the murder of Michael. Because they assumed at this point Michael is dead.
Yeah.
They charged him with kidnapping Michael Hughes, carjacking, using a firearm during the carjacking, and then a second firearm during the kidnapping of Michael Hughes and the principal. And the judge released the order, and the charges were successful on all accounts.
Yay!
Which is awesome, because usually when people are being charged with a murder and the body is not found, it's very hard to prove that they murdered someone. So it is very good that they were able to charge him with that.
Yeah.
So Floyd was actually sentenced to 52 years in prison, no parole.
Thank God.
Thank the Lords, because, man, that man needed to be put behind bars.
Yeah.
So they're finally caught, and that's the end of that, I thought. But
you would think
so.
Yeah.
So 1 year after Floyd was put behind bars in Florida, March 29, 1995, a highway crew makes a discovery. Ooh. A badly decomposed human skull.
That's so traumatizing. Just working and all of a sudden you see a skull.
A skull. Just doing your daily tasks and finding a skull. Just normal day. I'd quit.
Yeah, me too. I'm out of there. I'm out of there. Life is too short.
Yeah. To find skulls.
Yeah.
So, after 4 days of digging, they found 90% of a skeleton. 90%. After examining the skull, they found 2 bullet holes on the back and the orbital bone broken under one of the eyes. We'll put a clip of like what it is, but it's basically kind of like under your eyes. It's a very suspicious place to have broken. Like, that must, like, a lot of force had to happen to have that broken. It's crazy. And the police were One, two, three. The police were able to identify the skeleton as Cheryl Camesso.
From earlier. Sharon's friend.
Sharon's friend, the one hanging around Floyd. Yeah. Maybe you shouldn't have done that, girl.
Yeah, no.
No.
Don't hang around your friends' dads.
Yeah.
Just saying.
So back to 1989, Tampa Bay, Florida, in Monts Views. Friends were getting a little concerned for Cheryl. That she was hanging around Sharon and Clarence too much. Or not Sharon and Clarence, Sharon and Floyd. Sorry, he has so many names, guys. But she was just hanging around them too much, and things were heating up. People were getting worried. Things were happening. So one of the times that Cheryl showed up to work, with a bruise on her cheek and a black eye, as well as marks on her neck, showing signs of strangulation.
Yeah, no, thank you.
No. And like I said, coworkers were getting really, really concerned. Floyd was very clearly obsessed with Cheryl. He would call the place they worked, asking where she was, what she was doing. He would meet up with her in the parking lot. Just too obsessed.
Yeah, so weird.
Yeah, too obsessed. So one day, Sharon's dad was in the parking lot, and Cheryl was there having a heated argument. They were fighting. And Floyd was screaming at her, and he said, quote, he was going to kill her, end quote.
If I never saw Cheryl again, I would have immediately put into clearance.
I know. One of her coworkers ended up pulling Sharon away from the argument, but little did she know that would be the last time she would see her friend Cheryl Camesso.
So scary and sad.
I know.
Around 1989 in Florida, Michelle Couples, the babysitter from before, was looking after Sharon and Warren's trailer. While she was outside on her porch having a smoke break, she saw this guy in a truck pull up. He gets out of his car and he goes around their house. 5 minutes later, he reappears and he gets in his car and speeds out of there. Like, he just leaves as fast as he can. And soon after, their trailer, Warren and Sharon's trailer, blows up. Like, it just explodes. So
that is crazy. I can't imagine the neighbors just looking outside and seeing their fellow neighbor's trailer blow up.
I know. Michelle said that she actually saw their oven in the sky, when it exploded, the oven
just flew up.
Yeah.
Oh my god, that is crazy.
Yeah, pretty crazy. And then later on, Floyd is charged with the first degree murder of Cheryl Camesso.
Yeah, I mean, it was pretty obvious.
He was found guilty and sentenced to death. Thank God.
Death row.
Yeah. At this time, Michael's body is still missing. They still had no idea where it was. On the other hand, Matt Burbeck, a author, he saw Sharon's photo on a missing persons website, and he decided to dig deeper about it and try and find out who Sharon really was, her real identity.
Didn't he write a book about her?
Yeah.
What is it called? Do you remember what it's called?
I don't remember what it's called.
We'll probably link it up in the right there so you guys can see it if you guys want to read it. He didn't solve it, I don't think, in the book, but if you guys are curious, you can definitely give it a good read.
Matt Burbeck actually went to interview Frank or Floyd.
He went to interview Floyd.
Yep. Oh. And obviously he didn't find anything. Floyd, he refused to talk about it. He did not want to talk about it. But, he thought when Matt first came in to interview him, Floyd was so convinced that Matt was his attorney. So when he came in, he started talking and didn't stop talking. He just talked and talked and talked.
Was it just about his life story?
Yeah. Trying to explain why he did what he did without actually admitting
what he did.
Yeah.
No, you're guilty on all charges. You get nothing.
After a bunch of people found Matt Burbeck's book, everyone around the world was so invested in trying to find Cheryl's real identity. In 2005, Matt got an email asking if the DNA of Sharon's daughter would help her find her true identity.
Oh.
Yeah.
Here we are.
Megan, Sharon's birth daughter, read Matt's book and she was so interested in figuring out if this was really her mother, because she had already been looking and searching to find her real mom, and she realized that Sharon and Floyd looked exactly like her. She said Megan got her cheeks and her natural hair color.
Is it Floyd or is it Michael? Well, is it Michael and Sharon? Because Floyd isn't related to them.
No, this is Floyd and Sharon's daughter.
Oh, really?
Sharon got pregnant 3 times. The first time she got pregnant in high school, we suspect that she gave it up for adoption, but we don't really know.
Because that's what she called the friend about, to give it up for adoption, yeah.
And then this Megan was this 3rd child, so after Michael. And,
after Michael.
So they had another kid after Michael.
Oh.
Yeah. So in 1995, Sharon and Frank found someone to adopt Megan. So they went to an attorney's office, was like, we can't afford another child. Find someone to adopt this kid. In 2010 to 2011, Megan tested her DNA, and they actually found out it was a match. So Megan was Sharon's biological daughter, but they still didn't know who Sharon was and her real identity. So fast forward, Ashley Rodriguez asked Joe for help. The first detective from the FBI, Joe, Ashley asked for Joe's help.
Oh yeah, the Joe Fitzpatrick who caught Floyd in the first place.
Yeah.
Actually, he was actually really sad because he retired before they could find out who Sharon was.
So when Ashley reached out for help, he was actually pretty happy and excited to try and
to get back on the case. Yeah.
And Ashley is from an organization called NCMEC, National Center for Missing and Exploited Children. Ashley and Joe asked FBI Scott Lobb and Nate Furr to interrogate Frank. Frank wouldn't talk about Sharon at first. Like, he refused to tell anything about Sharon. And while Frank is being accused and questioned, he starts crying. Like, sobbing.
Oh, he finally breaks.
Yeah,
weren't really they playing like crying. Good cop, bad cop? Where I feel like they were like playing good putting cop, pressure on him.
Yeah, so he starts crying. Like,
finally some emotion.
Yeah, they said that he had like crocodile tears. So he cries while being interrogated, and Frank finally, he just at one point, I think it was Scott, he asks Michael he asked Frank where Michael is, and Frank just all of a sudden he just stops crying, and he says he shot Michael twice in the head to, quote, make it quick, end quote. So
finally some closure on Michael.
We know that he's actually officially dead.
You never want a child to be dead, but at this point I think police already knew.
Yeah, they kind of already suspected that there wasn't really a way for him to be alive still.
Yeah, that is
Floyd
so sad.
says he buried him near the Oklahoma-Texas border. They spent 2 days looking and found nothing, so they still don't, to this day, they still don't know where Michael's body is.
That is crazy.
Never found his body. So the FBI agents get Floyd to start talking about himself, and Floyd ends up spilling everything just by talking about himself. Floyd said that he was a bus driver, an excellent bus driver. When he meets Sandy, she had just lost her 3 kids to the state. Matt at the time, the FBI agent Matt asked Floyd what his identity was at the time, and Floyd actually said his name was Brandon Cleo Williams, which is
Brandon Cleo Williams.
That's a new identity that we've never heard of before. Oh, so this was the first time hearing about this.
So actually, he has 5 aliases.
Yeah. He ended up marrying Sandy, and he promised Sandy that he would get with her and that they would get her kids back together.
Were they 3 girls, or do you know?
3 girls.
3 girls. Okay.
Yeah. So he married Sandy, and he also gave away all of Sandy's daughters' names and birth dates. One of the daughters was Sharon. She was actually the oldest of the group. She was born in Livonia, Michigan,
Livonia, Michigan. She was.
Yeah.
No, Floyd was here.
Yeah, which is a little freaky.
A little scary.
Yeah. So, Sharon's real name is actually Suzanne Savakis.
Suzanne?
Mm-hmm.
Oh my god.
Sandra Brandenburg and Clifford Savakis were her parents. They had gotten married right after they graduated high school, so like Clifford was 2 years older than Sandy, and they had just gotten married straight out of high school, and 2 months after they got married, they were pregnant with Suzanne.
That's Sharon, right?
Yeah, Suzanne and Sharon are the same person. So when Suzanne or Sharon was born, Cliff was in Vietnam. So Sandy had started seeing another man while Cliff was in the military.
Ooh.
Sandy had then gotten pregnant with 2 other kids, which is the 2 other daughters she had.
Did her and her husband get divorced?
Yes, they did end up getting divorced. And Sandy didn't talk to Cliff again because they obviously got divorced.
Didn't he want to see his kids, didn't he want to see Suzanne, but she didn't let him? Or what was the whole situation with that?
We'll get to that later.
Oh, okay.
Sandy and her 3 kids moved to a trailer home that ended up getting tipped over, because their trailer home was sat on a hill, and a tornado came by and tipped their trailer home over. So they had nowhere to live and
homeless.
Yeah, Sandy ended up getting PTSD, and she wanted to help her kids, and back then keep in mind, this is the only way that she knew to help her kids. So she went to social services and asked for help. But obviously her kids were taken from her, which is really upsetting because Sandy, she wanted help with her kids, but
wanted a better support system, but just got her kids taken
When the kids were taken into social services, into child services, they actually called Cliff, Sandy's first husband, to ask if he wanted to adopt all 3 because they were too attached and they didn't want to separate them.
Yeah.
But Cliff was actually way too distraught to do it because he was 23, unemployed, and still living at his parents' house.
And he just came back from war, so
yeah. So he ended up saying no because he just felt like it wasn't
the right time.
Yeah, it just wasn't for him.
That's fair.
But the social service lady that actually talked to Sandy told her that she needed to see God and told her to go to a specific church. And so when she went to this church, she met Frank, or aka
Floyd. Clarence Floyd.
All of his names.
The drill, yeah.
So Frank had actually told Sandy that he was sent there by God and that he would get married, they would get married, and that they would get their kids back.
That is crazy.
So Sandy fell for it. She got married with Frank and they got her kids back and they ended up living together for a little while. And Sandy said that Frank had started getting aggressive and that he would always carry a knife around with him. Yeah.
I think I saw in there too that he would get overly really mean when they would argue and stuff like that. Yeah. And he would boil over and just get really aggressive. Which is a red flag.
She actually couldn't leave Frank because every time she mentioned leaving, Frank would pull the knife out of his pocket and tell her that you're never leaving me. There's no way you're leaving.
Oh.
So, but then one day, Sandy went out to buy diapers for her kids, like one does, and she ended up actually writing a bad check at 7-Eleven and was put in jail for 30 days. Where in that time where she was in jail, Frank took the kids and ran. She took all 3 kids. Yeah.
All
3 kids and ran. Sandy when she got out of jail, she went home and she found no one there. So she went to the police and asked for help. But since they were legally married, the police said, "Oh, we can't do anything. That's your problem. You're married." So they think that if they had listened, none of this would have happened.
None of this would have happened if they just listened to Sandy.
Yeah, which is really upsetting.
Oh my gosh, he literally got away with kidnapping 3 kids.
Yeah, but Frank actually only kept Susie or Cheryl. He left the other 2 kids at a orphanage, and the rest is history. He just took off and,
He just left the 2 other kids and kept poor Sharon.
Yeah.
Poor Susie, I should say.
And then
I don't even think she knew her true name.
No, I don't think so. Which is really upsetting. In 2017, they finally got to replace Susie's headstone with her real name. So after 25 years, a whole 25 years, they finally figured out Susie's real name, which is
very sad.
Yeah, it's sad, but also happy that they finally know who she really is.
After everyone persevered in the story, everyone helping each other, everyone figured out who she was in the end. It just sucks that if the police listened to them in the beginning, Floyd would not be running around. But I mean,
it is what it is. I guess.
It is what it is.
Okay.
So thank you guys for listening.
Thank you. Leave your comments.
Leave your comments if you agree with what Heather said or what is going on, or if you have like any more questions, just leave them in the comments.
Yeah. I hate you both. I hope you burn. Okay.